within our circles really struggled at first. That first like year and a half where it was like,
sure.
oh wait, the CW's done. Like we're not talking about those shows anymore.
And we've lost creators too. People stopped creating content because of this.
Yeah, I feel like it's the equivalent of living in Gotham, where it's like, this is my home, I love it, but it's a shit show, and I hate on it.
I want to make it a better place, like Batman wants to help out Gotham. I just can't seem to kill Joker, so, it's just...
Like, there hasn't had a main character syndrome, I think, in the MCU.
Right.
And I think Black Panther was such a... I think people attached themselves to that character so quickly. I think he would have been the like, easy shoe-in. Eric's Reloaded or Eric's Debunked?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pipeline Podcast, episode 167. The show where StreamYard just automatically has your shit on loop. I am joined by the one, the only, the fabulous, the amazing, good friend of the show. Eric's Reloaded is back. How's it? How are you, my friend?
Yay,
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking me to be here. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, you're always a pleasure to have on the show. Obviously, if you know the channel at all, you recognize DJ Eric. I do his show a couple times a week as well. So if you're a fan of his stuff, you've probably seen my face around the vibe, I guess. I feel like this time of year is kind of when I kind of contact you. About this time last year, 2 years ago, we did Aquaman 2, which was kind of like the end of that era of DC. And then this time last year, a little less than a year ago, I guess, we did our like roster for Avengers Doomsday.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was
we did
fun.
our picks. Yeah, our picks for who we thought were on the team, which I'm pretty sure is nothing like the team we actually I think they
didn't listen to us, so they didn't watch your podcast.
No,
paid attention.
I guess kind of in like the same vein of that, we're talking more Avengers stuff. We're talking more we are officially a year from Avengers Doomsday, which is wild, which is weird. Like, it felt like the last 5 years has been like, all right, it's 5 years until the next Avengers movie, and now we are officially in the era now.
We're heading into the promo phase of this movie. Like, we're getting there. So,
I mean, any day now we could get a trailer. Any day now they could be like, "Oop, it's here."
Yeah, here's a little teaser. Get excited.
In fact, by the time this episode goes up, we may have it. The trailer might be here. We've already reacted to it. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But we are continuing our MCU retrospective series here on the show. We are now heading towards the end of Phase 3, which is wild to say. I started this about like a little, I guess, almost a year ago, like almost a year and a half ago at this point. We started with Lance all the way back with Iron Man 1, and we've gone through this juggernaut of a franchise, which is the MCU. And like, kind of one of the main reasons I wanted to do it was I was like, I don't remember a lot of the movies. Like, Infinity War was the first one I saw in theaters, which is crazy. But like, 2008, I was what, 6? So, like, there's a lot of these movies I have all seen them all.
You saw them all on Blu-ray or VOD or something.
Yeah, I would like go to like the library and rent them. I didn't see them in theaters. I didn't talk about them in this format. So now that I'm kind of like caught up to where I was at least like kind of talking about these movies with friends and stuff like that. It's
Mhm.
going to be very interesting. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Black Panther today. We're going to be talking about Infinity War today. That's going to be very, very fun. But before we get into everything, Eric, how are you doing? How have you been? Happy holidays. How's life treating you, man?
Good, good. Just enjoying, being able to get on and make the content that I want to make.
Hmm.
Having a lot of fun just talking about the stuff I want to talk about. For years, we were not that I disliked it, but we were kind of locked into the Arrowverse. I really only had time to talk about that. But the last couple of years, I've had a chance to expand out and start talking about different things, and including more Marvel stuff, more animation, non-specific DC TV show stuff, which I love those things. Obviously, we still talk about them,
Yeah.
but this past year has been a lot of fun, sort of reinventing that with the new podcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's been fun, and obviously having you hanging out when you can is also cool. More of an open bar format, which I think
Mhm.
works really well. And leading into the holidays, just had the big contest on my channel, and everybody's been very happy with the stuff that's going on. I guess we have the Wheel of Doom, so over there. But yeah, so everything's been fun,
Yeah.
just a lot of fun. I don't really have anything negative to say. It's been a really good few months leading into the end of the year. So
Hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of the channels within our circles really struggled at first. That first like year and a half, where it
oh,
was
for
like,
sure.
oh wait, the CW's done. Like we're not talking about those shows anymore.
And we've lost creators too. People stopped creating content because of this.
Yeah, like I think the Flash ending was a big for many creators being like, well, I'm
I mean,
out of here, I guess.
Pagey's probably one of the biggest creators in our space that did DC TV, and he just stopped
Yeah,
making content.
yeah,
So yeah,
for sure.
but it's been fun for me. I've had a lot of fun. I've always wanted to branch out and
Hmm.
talk about different things. Pixar and Disney animation. I know you love that stuff, so it's always good to talk about that. So, and all these great cartoons we have coming out. So a lot of fun
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
No, it's definitely like it was interesting seeing like where people were leaning after that ended. So it's like okay, like Marvel was like the obvious one that made sense because that's kind of
Right.
stuff we already talked about. It's like okay, the new DC universe makes sense, but for most of that time there wasn't stuff to talk about. Like they were making the stuff.
And then we
There
had
weren't-
the strikes that happened. I mean, that was another big thing that cut a year of content out for everybody. So
Yeah. No, it's been interesting seeing how people kind of evolved and transitioned after that era of stuff.
we're in a
Um,
renaissance, Darren. Though we're in an
we
animation
are.
renaissance right now. So at least I
I,
feel
I
like we are.
I think like okay, this is a weird week to say this because of the whole Netflix merger that literally just happened.
Yes. Yeah.
But I do think we are like as fans very lucky right now because there really isn't a week that goes by we don't have a massive TV show, a massive
Mm.
movie, a massive big news thing to talk about. Like it feels like if you're just a fan of pulp culture and nerd shit, you have your pick of the crop. There's
Mm.
honestly probably too much stuff to talk about. There's shows going on right now I can't talk about because I have too many shows that I'm currently watching. So
This year's going to be even worse. And now we're, like you said, we're leading into Doomsday. So it's like stuff is going to
oh,
start overlapping with each other, and just we're going to have so much.
it just came out like yesterday that like what is it? It's like Invincible, Daredevil, Born Again, and The Boys season 5 will all air at the same
Yeah, they have the
time.
same exact schedule, the same airing schedule. So
Insane. There's like 10 Marvel things coming out. There's 3 DC things coming. Like next year we are we're going to be grasping for time to get at anything
I'll
done.
take all of it, though. I'll take every
I
single
will.
bit of it. So
I like it. It's fun. It's fun. But to get the show started here today, I mean, last time we had you on the show, we had you for our Creator Spotlight segment. We talked your history on YouTube. We talked your background and kind of where you got your start. We're gonna have a bit more fun today. I have a
Okay.
round of this or that. I'm gonna name
Mhm.
2 things from a similar category, and you are going to tell me which out of the 2 you would choose.
Okay.
First of all, I know the answer for this first one. That's why I made it the first one. Pizza or burgers?
Pizza.
Same.
I love both, but if you're going to make me choose.
Mhm. Yeah, it's pizza. Thoughts on pizza burgers though?
Ooh. I never thought about that. I guess that would be a good combination, a good fusion.
Oh, they're
there,
really
so
good. They're really
Yeah.
really good.
I've
They're
never had one.
oh, they're so good. They're not healthy for you. They're actually really really bad, but they are.
Are the
good.
buns made of like pizza dough? Is that how they do that?
Yeah, it's like the top slice is a pizza, and then the
Right.
middle is the burger, and then the bottom is also a pizza, and it's covered in sauce.
That
It's
sounds
easy.
incredible.
Oh,
That
it's
sounds
oh, it's
incredible. but also like that you don't eat anything else for the rest of the week. That's your only meal for the whole week. Nothing else. Pizza every time for me though. Pizza, pizza, pizza.
Incredible. This goes into kind of what we're talking about today. Infinity War or Endgame?
Infinity War.
Yeah, same. I like both, but that experience watching Infinity.
There are so quickly because I know this is like a lightning round, but Infinity War for me. The issue I have with Infinity War, without going into too much, because I know you're saving that for another person, but Endgame for me, saving that for another person. Endgame has a lot of issues within the movie that I think if it did not come in after Infinity War, it wouldn't have been as well received.
Yeah.
But I think the two together complement each other. But I prefer Infinity War over Endgame.
Yeah, like Endgame, like I have my problems with Endgame, but like it is one of those things. Like I have those problems, although it is so much fun. I'm almost like, who cares? But I don't really have that with like Infinity War. Like,
no, I have very little notes for Infinity War. We'll see today when we talk about
it. For sure. Flash or Arrow as shows, not characters.
This is tough because Arrow. Arrow has a couple of stumbles as it goes on, but Flash has an entire segment of the series where it's like, what are we doing, right? So I love the Flash because I love the character, but you said show
as a
character.
Show.
I think consistency wise, Arrow is a more consistent show, so I would go with Arrow. Yeah.
I have more of a connection with Flash, but Arrow I think is the superior show.
Yeah, even the bad stuff in Arrow gets lifted up as you go through it. Flash just once that the middle of the series hit, like around 5 and 6, it's like, what are we doing with the show? Yeah.
Okay, this one's fun. Eric's Reloaded or Eric's Debunked?
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't know. So I like the podcast, right? But the podcast shares both channels, so I can't really go on that because that goes to both channels. Right now, I'm having more fun making content for Eric D.
Okay.
It's like making the content.
Yeah.
But if there was a way for me to go back to the review styles that I did for the CW shows, I'd probably still enjoy doing that for Eric's Reloaded. I wanted to try and do that this year, but with everything stacked on top of each other, I don't know how that's going to work. However, spoiler alert, I think I've come up with a way to do it. I think because shorts now can be 3 minutes long, I think I might start doing like my reviews as 3-minute reviews and then talk about them longer on the podcast. So I'm hoping to equally love both of those children the same, but right now one of the kids is a little bit more, I'm getting a little bit more love, but the other one, I still love them. I just need to like get back out there with it. But yeah, I would say right now I'm having more fun with debunks, but overall I want to change what the Reloaded channel is. So
very nice. Very nice. YouTube or Twitch?
YouTube. I want to like Twitch more. Like I like not more than YouTube, but I would like to like it more than what I like now.
Right.
But the problem with Twitch is it's really hard to grow a channel on Twitch. Twitch is very difficult. YouTube, all you have to do is have 1 or 2 videos sort of get in the algorithm and people will start coming in. With Twitch, it's just about the constant like streaming all the time and I So I'm more of a YouTube person.
Fair. Twitter or Instagram?
Ooh, good question. Because they are similar, but I think Twitter is fun as long as you don't let it get to you. Because Twitter's got a lot of negative shit on there, so you got to be really sort of resilient to that.
Yeah.
I've loved Twitter because of the immediate interaction you can have on Twitter.
Yeah.
I think Instagram's a better platform. I think Instagram's a better place for your like look, there's bad actors on Instagram too, but I feel like Instagram gives you more control over like how to deal with that than Twitter does. It's a little bit harder to deal with on Twitter.
Yeah. I agree. Like I like Twitter's my place, but I understand it's like a cesspool. Like I feel like it's the equivalent of living in Gotham, where it's like, this is my home, I love it, but it's a shit show, and I hate on it.
I want to make it a better place, like Batman wants to help out Gotham. I just can't seem to kill Joker, so it's going to continue to be the way it is, I guess. No, I think Instagram's a better platform, to be honest.
Yeah, fair, fair. Coke or Pepsi?
Ooh. Oh, I don't know. So I think Coke is so weird. I think Coke is better when you get it like buy it at home and you have it in like a can or a bottle or something. But I think when you're drinking from like a fountain drink at a restaurant or something, I think Pepsi is better. It's not quite as sweet as Coke is.
Right.
But Coke and Sprite are two things at fountain drinks where you get them like fresh. It's either super spicy or super sweet. I don't like that. So I would say Coke at home and Pepsi out, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't really. I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Coke because I drink more at home than I do anywhere else. But,
Incredible. Spider-Man: Brand New Day or
mm,
Beyond the Spider-Verse? Two
Beyond the
upcoming movies
Spider-Verse.
that we haven't seen yet.
Beyond the Spider-Verse,
Beyond the
100%.
Spider, yeah,
Yeah. Look, I like Spider-Man, Tom Holland, Brand New Day. It's
yeah,
going to make way more money than the Spider-Verse
it
movie
will.
will.
Yeah,
But I think the two Spider-Verse movies that we have right now probably like in their own way like are my favorite Spider-Man movies of all time.
I agree.
I like individual movies in the other like trilogy and the duo we had with Andrew Garfield, but I think as a full package of movies right now, I
Yeah,
love where those two movies are. So I'm really looking forward to the third one. I think once we get that third one, we might have the best Spider trilogy of all time with those. With those, I don't want to separate it by animation and live action in that way because
right.
I feel like a lot of people do that. Animated movies are just as valid as live action movies, in my
Yeah,
opinion, and I think in that way, I would just classify it as probably the best and most consistent of Spider-Man movies we've had. So
I fully agree. I think those two are like just some of the movies we've got. Period. Like I think like it doesn't even exist in this comic book space. Like yes, it does obviously, but like I think if you compare it to like other movies outside of that genre too, it's some of the best we've ever seen. Like I
yeah,
think they're masterclass. I think they're incredible. Okay, a couple more here. The Boys season 5
hmm
or Invincible season 4.
Invincible.
Invincible. Okay.
I'm having my romantic relationship with animation is like becoming more and more impassioned.
Okay.
I just
Yeah.
I loved it growing up, and then we kind of were like, well, what would this look like in live action? Because
Mhm.
for the longest time, it was hard to do superheroes that looked real in movies and TV shows because it was so expensive. And
Right.
so I got away from animation for a while because I started really getting into the live action stuff. And now I'm starting to like fall in love with animation again. I think we've had some really good projects over the last 3 or 4 years, and animation is starting to realize that all they need to catch up with live
Yeah.
action is just improve the quality of the storytelling,
Yeah.
and that's it. Because with animation, you can do anything you want,
Yeah.
really, as long as you can draw it. So yeah, for me, Invincible for sure. I think The Boys has sort of ran its course for me. Of course, I'm going to watch this season. I think it's going to be a
Yeah.
good season, but I feel like Invincible has more to say. I think The Boys has said a lot.
Mhm.
I think that Gen V is has much more to say than The Boys has to say.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it wraps up. But I'm Camp Invincible right now. So
I fully agree. I think like I love The Boys, but I think satire can only has so much to say until you're kind of at the end of that course, and I'm
look
kind of
where we
like
are right now. I mean,
I
it's
am
really
like I think in season 4 when they were like up on stage being like we're making fun of Disney because we're doing the thing too, but it's like yeah, but you're doing the same exact thing you're making fun of these other studios for doing.
yeah.
It's like I think that's when the joke becomes unfunny to
Yeah,
me.
you were doing it like in season 3 and 4, and like making fun of them for doing it, and you're
Yeah,
doing it yourself. So yeah,
yeah, 100%. But I am also excited for both. I'm excited to
yes,
see
yeah.
where they take that. Captain America or Iron Man? Pick a
Uh,
side.
yeah. Oh my gosh, Civil War. Um, I if we're talking about the characters or the ideology or what's the criteria for this one?
Whatever you want.
Okay. I like Iron Man's team better. I like the
Okay.
lineup of characters in that team better. I think it's a more interesting team. Um, but in terms of like what was being asked of the characters, I think I was Team Cap.
I was Team Cap too.
Yeah, I think that like compromising any sort of like autonomy or freedom in a world where, I mean, you have aliens and stuff attacking. I think it's just a weird ask of these characters. And the government, obviously, we see now, like, if you look at where we are now in the MCU and the stuff they've been doing, it's very clear that Cap was right. So for me, it's Team Cap. And I was Team Cap back then, too. So, you know.
Agreed. Okay, my final choice here. Insomniac Spider-Man or Arkham Batman?
This is probably the toughest question you've asked the whole time. I like the Arkham stuff, I do, but I'm not as stoic as Batman is. I'm more of like a bubbly, fun type guy. So I feel like I resonate more with the Spider-Man games. That includes all of them. I would say even the Miles games, so both the Peter and the Miles game. I feel like they're just, it's more me. The city, the swinging through the city, with the webbing and getting to climb up the side of buildings and stuff. It's just, it's a lot of fun. I think the games did really well. Obviously, the Arkham games have a system that works well with Batman, but I don't think we've had a Spider-Man game that works quite as well as the Insomniac Spider-Man game. So I'm going to go with that one.
Agreed.
Insomniac Spider-Man.
I love the Insomniac games. I haven't played much of the Arkham games too, so that probably hurts me a little bit. But I am I love the Insomniac games. I think
they're good. They're semi-open world, just like the Spider-Man games are. They're very similar. It's a really good comparison comparing those two things together for sure. Yeah.
But you passed the this or that game. Before we hop into our kind of main thing today, something literally just came out. And I don't talk about news that much anymore, just 'cause I like it to be more focused. But this came out while we were recording this, maybe a little bit before. I guess we have a teaser trailer for Supergirl.
Oh, really?
I think it just came out. Let me see if I can. Yeah,
wow.
That's better. I don't know what this is. I don't know if this is just like a teaser, just announced something. But James Gunn said teaser trailer this week, so it is confirmed. Let me know if you can hear it.
I mean, look, I've been on Team Supergirl since the Superman movie, so this teaser has me excited. This might be, in terms of superhero movies, at the top of my list for 2026 for sure.
Yeah. No, I think we had kind of assumed it was going to be this week. Like, I know they're doing some kind of presentation somewhere this week. What is it? CCXP? Is that it?
I believe so. And the Game Awards are also on Thursday, which I believe that's why people think this is going to drop during that. So,
yeah, I mean, listen, I think everyone's kind of scrambling right now for trailers because obviously we just had Thanksgiving week, a bunch of trailers came out then, and then of course, holiday season's here. They want to put things in front of Five Nights at Freddy's and Avatar and SpongeBob and Anaconda. So I would assume they kind of want this in front of Avatar. I think that just makes sense to me. They're both these like sci-fi epics. So
I actually think you mentioned like putting this in front of Avatar. I think a very beneficial thing for both studios theaters are doing and what people are going out and watching would be for Marvel and DC or Disney and Warner Brothers to sort of start playing nice together in terms of marketing. Like, go ahead, promote Supergirl, with Fox properties. Why not? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I feel like they should. And I think they should be more open to that, especially with what's happening with the whole Netflix and Warner Brothers thing. So I'm looking forward to it. I want to see more of this like camaraderie thing with them. I think that would be a lot of fun to do that. So yeah, I'm excited. We'll get it this week.
Me too. I'm excited. I mean, again, we're supposed to get in this. I know rumors for Doomsday as well coming out here soon, which crazy week for both. Let's see which. I mean, Doomsday will probably do better because it's Avengers, but I'm excited for both for sure.
I think Doomsday will probably do better, but it's I wouldn't directly compare Supergirl to Doomsday. Like in terms
they feel very different. Yeah, for sure. Alrighty. With that being said, we're going to be hopping into our main discussions here today. Of course, I kind of introed it at the top. We've been going through our MCU retrospective series, and we are kind of approaching what everything was leading to. Everything was kind of leading to this 2018-2019 mega year, which I think officially started with Black Panther 2018. Now, I didn't see this movie in theaters when it came out. I probably should have, but I do remember there being such just massive hype for this movie. I think at the time, and like I don't know your association with the character, like at the time, you probably had a lot more than I did. But like I had watched him in like Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I had him in some of those smaller things. But when this came out, it was this massive endeavor. Like this was something, as someone who wasn't fully in the fandom yet, like I remember hearing about the movie being like, "Oh, this is big." What's your kind of association with the 2018 Black Panther?
So I was excited for this because I think Black Panther is a character that has been overlooked a little bit in terms of like relevance, because you have to create a world around. It's not just Black Panther as a character. You have to create the world of Wakanda around Black Panther. That requires a lot of world building. It requires a lot of work. And so when I knew they were doing this, I'm like, you can't screw this up. Like you have to do this right. You have to put everything, all the pieces need to be in the correct place. The first major black superhero film in the MCU, a predominantly black cast, predominantly black creators working behind the scenes to do this. Getting the teaser, we talked about Civil War earlier, getting the teaser of, Black Panther and that as a character, and where we're going to see, how Chadwick would do in this role of T'Challa moving forward. There was a lot riding on this. And I actually think the Civil War, showing up in Civil War definitely helped kick this off a little bit.
Right.
But I will say, you mentioned the Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I think a lot of people probably got introduced to Black Panther that way in modern times. I think,
yeah.
Like myself, I've been reading comics since the late '70s, early '80s, so I've been aware of Black Panther for a long time. But I knew there was a lot riding on this. I also knew they were going with the Afrofuturism with Wakanda and stuff like that. So I was looking forward to it. And I actually was a little nervous because obviously they had avoided making movies like this because they didn't think there was any financial benefit to making films for a black audience for when it comes to superhero movies and things like that. So this movie had a lot riding on it going into it, and I was there cheering it on, all along. So
yeah, like I think that was, not to get woke like instantly, but like I think if there was like one main complaint I could throw at like the Infinity Saga, it is just the lack of like diversity in their stories. Like the fact that it took almost 20 projects to get a black led movie. Up at this point, we still did not have a female led movie. Like
you'll probably be talking about that pretty soon because that's the next year. So, but
yeah. So like,
no, it took them a long time to do this, and there's so many characters they could have done it with, they just didn't. So,
and I think like you saw the like response of it too. That came out. It made $1 billion, man. Like it did very, very well. And I imagine from a like behind the scenes view, it's like, wait, we could have been doing this the whole time. And I do think Wakanda. I talked a little bit about this with Jake when we did Doctor Strange, but like there are these worlds that Marvel has that they are not. I don't think they're fully utilizing enough.
Yeah.
I think Doctor Strange is one, like with the magic and stuff like that. And I think Wakanda is such a fascinating world, arguably one of their most interesting worlds. Obviously, we've had 2 Black Panther movies. We recently had the like Eyes of Wakanda series, which I very much enjoyed.
And loosely connected was Ironheart. I mean, that's loosely connected to the Black Panther film. So
Ironheart, and I would argue that this might be one of their most consistent franchises. Like I don't know. I feel like most of the franchises have had at least one miss. If it's like, Captain America recently had their newest movie. Iron Man had a couple misses. Thor's had quite a few misses. Where like Black Panther is like, I love the first 2 movies a lot.
Yeah.
I like Eyes of Wakanda a lot. And even the other stuff he's focused in, like Infinity War, Endgame, are both very, and Civil War as well. Like those are all I would argue most people would consider those some of the highest highs of the
Well,
MC.
this was the first superhero film nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars.
Oh wow. Yeah, no, that's
So,
incredible.
yeah, it won 3 Academy Awards, I think. I don't remember what they were for. I know costume design was one of them, but they won 3 Academy Awards. So,
Hmm.
like this was a very like it wasn't just a movie that had a lot riding on its shoulders going in, and you talked about it making $1 billion, but it was like a cultural milestone for like superhero movies, not just for like a black superhero, but like all
Yeah.
superhero movies. So,
Yeah. No, and again, like there was such a like when was the last time before this we had one? Was it was it Blade?
I
Was
believe
that
so.
the
Yeah.
which is
If
insane.
we're talking about like main like Marvel DC superheroes, it would have
Yeah,
been Blade. Yeah, for sure.
which is insane. Like there was probably um this kind of need for one, and like I
Yeah.
think people like of this community being like, "Hey, I love this stuff is great," but people just not being able to see themselves on the screen, and then finally being like, oh, not only seeing themselves, but seeing themselves in
Mm.
such a quality as well.
Oh, I
Um,
mean, it was a very refined movie. You know what I mean?
mhm.
It covered politics. It was very stylish. Even with this supernatural type science fiction
Yeah,
world they lived in, it was still very grounded because it talked about cultural things, tribal lines, and things like that. So,
yeah,
I mean, again, that and then all the conversations about inclusion around all this. You talked
yeah,
about the wokeness behind it or whatever. This was a movie that sort of it in every possible way it had to be what it was. Like you couldn't do it
yeah,
another way. So I think it did break boundaries that way. We're still waiting on another Blade movie, but
yeah,
you know, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, I think Blade was the last one. I can't think of any other movie, major film. Well, we
yeah,
know it wasn't the MCU because the MCU had been around since 2008, so and
yeah.
they hadn't done one. DC hadn't really branched out too far, so yeah, it would have
No,
been Blade. Blade would have been the last one, and
it's
that was
yeah,
in the 90s. So
yeah, insanity. I think we also just need to bring up Chadwick Boseman, obviously the
yeah,
absolute legend that he was. Um, and you know, like I think at the time I didn't fully appreciate how good he is as that character. I think it unfortunately sometimes it takes losing a soul like that to really
hmm,
look back and be like, "Oh, he was perfect as that role."
yeah.
Like he is a perfect
His
it's
T'Challa is the same as like Robert's Tony or
yeah.
Chris's Steve. It's
Mhm.
he is that character. That's his role. So
Yeah, like I rewatched it, like man, it's so it's not interesting, but like I rewatch a movie like this and I just see I talked about this when we did Civil War as well
mm,
because I think that's still my favorite like project with that character. I thought he was
yes,
incredible in
yeah,
Civil War. But like I look at these projects with them and I just mourn the potential that a character like that could have had. Like
mm.
there was so much plans for him. There was
I
so
mean,
much
he was
faith.
going to be part of that new uh, Avengers unit they were going to be making. With like all these
Yeah,
characters, and that Chadwick would have been like rocketed even further into like stardom with those.
it
So
seemed like it was going to be Black Panther, Captain Marvel, and Spider Man.
yeah,
Like that seemed like the natural progression of everything that we've had. Um, so it's definitely again very tragic in
and I
regards.
think he could have done it. Like, look at what he did in this movie. Like,
Oh
he would have
yeah,
totally been able to lead the MCU.
and
So,
I think that has been something Marvel has been struggling with, where there hasn't been like there hasn't had a main character syndrome. I think in the
right.
MCU, and I think Black Panther was such a I think people attached themselves to that character so quickly. I think he would have been the like easy shoe in of like him, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel. Like I think those three just would have made so much sense.
Mm.
And then yeah, like losing the main cast and then losing Chadwick and then the reception with Captain Marvel, unfortunately, and that's enough. That I won't go down that rabbit hole because we could do that. That's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, no, it's definitely very
Can we also talk about Killmonger and how great of a villain he
yes,
is? Michael
yes,
B. Jordan is Killmonger. Just such a compelling villain.
mm,
And not even really a villain. I would say he's obviously an antagonist, but he thinks he's doing what he's doing for the
hmm
greater good because of how he was treated, how his family was treated. Um, Michael B. Jordan is such an incredible talent, and pairing
Yeah,
him opposite of Chadwick in this movie was
perfect.
brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah, just great in the movie. Obviously Killmonger's gone on to be used in like animated stuff. They want to use him in more projects. We might see him again. We know that we've got 2 movies coming out, and it's possible we could see him return for that reason.
right.
Just such a great stuff. I mean, just basically the entire cast. I mean, like everyone really. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, dog. Sorry.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what's going on? Everybody in the cast. I mean,
Yeah,
Mbaku. You got Mbaku. You got Shuri, Okoye. I mean, there's just all of the characters. Everybody associated with it. Angela, like,
Angela's
just
asset. Yeah,
yeah,
which
like it's
like
just great.
I did not appreciate her in this movie until I think later on, where like again that second movie she really gets to shine.
Yeah,
But no, like I fully agree. I think Michael B. Jordan, I think, is probably one of the best. As someone who doesn't really know the character outside of this circle of stuff, like I didn't
Mhm.
know his characters in the comics and stuff like that. Um, I think one of probably the better cast characters in the MCU. I think he's perfectly cast. I think this seemingly really jet start his career, and now he's like arguably one of the biggest actors in the world right now. He just
I
did
mean, we had
Sinners.
Sinners. Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
Sinners is incredible.
So
I also want to point out that when people talk about Marvel having an issue with their antagonist or their villains, Killmonger's never on the list of like ones
no.
that are bad. Like it wouldn't make any sense to put him on that list, to be honest.
In fact, I think he's one of the ones that jet started the good era. Like I think this like I think that honestly these like I think that like double hitter of Hela, Vulture, Killmonger, and Thanos. What a great run of villains!
Yeah,
Like that, those are 3 bangers or 4 bangers back to back to back to back. Um,
and Wakanda itself became a cultural thing. Like
yes,
outside of the film, like people quote Wakanda forever. They do the whole symbol and everything they do. Like
yeah,
that's something you see outside of the bubble of like normal Marvel stuff. It's not like
mhm,
you have to know that they're not mentioning Black Panther in a way. They're talking about the memeable like social thing of
yeah,
Wakanda forever, And not many Marvel movies have that. I can't think of any
no,
many Marvel movies where the location is associated with some sort of viral moment.
no,
Just I don't know. I don't have many notes. I think the only issue I have with the movie is I think the VFX is a little wonky in the final act,
yeah.
but it's not enough to ruin the movie for me at all. Like it's a very tiny nitpick.
Yeah, that's my only thing as well. Is I think the third act. I don't know. I sometimes think it comes along really quickly sometimes. Like I like it a lot, but it's like I maybe would have liked another like 5 minutes
Yeah.
to kind of like settle into this, whole thing. But I think kind of where we get there is incredible. Like I think um T'Challa and Killmonger's like fight on the mountaintop as he
Mm.
kicks him off the mountain. That is, I think, one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the entire MCU, and how we come full circle with M'Baku. Shout out to him as well, because he, I think, has had one of the best journeys in the MCU
Mm.
from that moment fighting him to redeeming himself to him in Infinity War, which we'll probably talk about that movie in a bit here,
Yeah.
and then where we see him in Wakanda Forever, where he basically becomes king, right? Like
Yeah.
he becomes king of the people. Like that is such a incredible journey that we get to see him go on. Um that yeah, I'm and now he's back for Doomsday.
Yeah.
So what the heck is he gonna do and do like that? That's so exciting.
I wonder if we're gonna see his final, like, well, not final, but his next evolution of like his character and his powers and stuff. I think that would be kind of fun to give him an opportunity to do that. But
Cool.
yeah, not many notes on Black Panther. I think it's a pretty, like, you talk about a movie that's pretty perfect. I think this one is very close to that. In my
I
mind.
agree. I guess the last character. I guess there's 2 characters I want to shout out before I move on here.
Yeah.
One is just Shuri. I think we should
Yeah.
talk about Shuri because I think in this movie she doesn't have a lot to do in this movie. I think it's more about just her personality on screen.
Right.
Um, but it is very interesting to see like what I think was supposed to be probably a 10-year arc of her taking over is kind
Yeah.
of on her immediately after this kind of one
Yeah.
appearance, I guess two appearances if you
Because I don't
count
think they would
Endgame.
have had her as Black Panther within the trilogy. She would have probably waited till after the trilogy for sure.
I think it would have been this 10-year arc of
Yeah.
like him stepping away and then her. But like the seeds are there. Like there's the scene it's a very funny scene, but like when he's doing the like first ceremony and they're like, "Is there anyone that would like to challenge the king?" And she raises her hand, being like, "Can we get this done and over with?" But like there is that
Yeah.
foreshadowing there of like, "Oh, oh, are you going to challenge for king?" And then that full circle moment of like, she has to. It's not that she wants to, but she has to step in for him.
I also think that she's supposed to be the what word am I looking for? She's the youthful, young, like vibrant character versus like the more stoic characters in the movie.
Yeah,
Because she's like, what are those? And like there's that sort of referential stuff. You know what I mean? And I
yeah,
think that's all part of who she is. And then we have to go from that to where we get in,
hmm
Wakanda Forever. But I do believe that she was going to be set up as like the less. She's going to draw outside the lines, basically, as a
hmm
character, and I like that about her.
yeah. Yeah, like I think like again it sucks because like in an ideal world Chadwick wouldn't have passed away and we would have seen
Mm.
this full journey, but I think not to talk too much about this movie now because that's for another day completely, but like seeing that character kind of have to be thrown into the lion's pit and just be like, "Oh, I am the fun one, but I can't be anymore." Like
Right.
I have to grow up quickly, which is like a very like royalty kind of storyline. Like that I feel like happens in 99% of the like I mean, even in this movie, it's
Because
T'Challa not
T'Challa has
being
to take over for his father. Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah,
he's not ready either, and it's him having to be like, okay, all right, let's do this.
yeah.
I have to do this. I also just love the main story here as well. This
Hmm.
idea of like opening up the barriers to the outer world. I think that is one of the coolest like main themes for a Marvel movie of just like we could help them, but what if we regret that decision? Like what if they
Hmm.
take advantage? And I think that's a very real fear because
The
what
the
has
xenophobic nature of Wakanda. Yeah,
but they're also kind of valid. Like what has American done to other cultures in history?
that's the really fun conversation to have though, right?
Yeah.
Because you're weighing the like this is why I think Killmonger was such a great character because you are weighing the pros and the cons of this. Like how much of this is valid and how much of it is xenophobia. Like which
hmm
one are we dealing with? How, do you not want to help people? You have all this technology and like it goes back to I hate to say this, but like the Star Trek thing, and you probably don't know this, but like they're not supposed to interact with civilizations that aren't as advanced as them because they could end up creating things that would hurt each other. And I think that Wakanda feels the same way. Like if we start offering, vibranium to the rest of the world, what are they going to do? Are they going to just drop bombs on each other?
Right.
How's that going to work? So I do understand that, but I think that that ultimately the ideas that T'Challa had
Yeah.
and Shuri later on or whatever, the ideas that T'Challa had in this movie for what he wanted to do did need to expand a little bit because I do
hmm
think that he was still holding on to what his father and what his father's father wanted to do, his grandfather. But Killmonger was like, we're just going to kick the doors open and start doing what we want because we're Wakanda, we
Yeah.
have all this stuff. I don't think either one of them were 100% right, but I think that's what I love movies where there is you don't have a clear like this
Yeah.
is the person you're supposed to be cheering for. Like you're thinking about the story, you're talking about it, you're discussing what's good, what's bad. I like stuff like that. I prefer
hmm
it over like a clear cut. This is the good person. This is the bad person, and no deviating from
Yeah.
that. I think those
I,
are fine, but this was more fun.
yeah, no. And like I 100% agree. And I think ever since then they've done such a cool storyline of like showing the consequences of those actions. Like we
Hmm.
see them open up the barriers for Infinity War, which again we'll talk about here in just a second. But like even though that is the right decision, we are like the like second they open up the barriers, they have a war on their front step and they have to
Right.
deal with those consequences. And then we see that again in Wakanda Forever, where they are now again pairing with
With
another
Atlantis,
tribe,
yeah.
which has also brought destruction to their doorsteps and like the like consequences of his actions in that first movie. So it's so fascinating. I love when the consequences to a character's actions has major consequences. I think
Right.
that's awesome. I think that's really really cool. All right. Any final thoughts on or on this movie before we move on to our next one here?
Oh, yeah, not really. I think we covered everything.
Yeah.
We could talk in so much detail about the film. I think there was a lot of
Yeah.
layered performances, but again, it's about as perfect a movie you could ask for a first outing.
Yeah.
So yeah, not much to say outside of that.
I agree. Alrighty, and we are moving on to our next movie here. Um, like I said, what probably, arguably, one of the biggest movies in not only the MCU but probably just the superhero genre as a whole, and it's kind of
Mm,
the main reason I wanted to do this retrospective series because I've never talked about this movie on a podcast like forum like this, and that's Avengers Infinity War.
mm,
Now, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. I adore this movie. I think it's an absolute brilliant just time capsule of a movie. We kind of talked about it like in our intro, but this was the
mm,
first movie. This is one of the first movies I kind of watched in like a theater on my own. Like I did some stuff, with my parents over the years, but this was the first one I was like, I have this money, I'm saving it. I'm seeing this movie in theaters because it was such an event movie. Like this was
right.
such a massive movie. Probably the Marvel movie I talked about the most because I remember like seeing it in theaters and then the entire following year, me and my friends in class talking about it for an entire year as we led into Avengers Endgame the following
Mm.
year. Um, what's your history with Avengers Infinity War though? Like, take me back to kind of where you were as this movie was kind of approaching. I think this was kind of like those like after party probably
Yeah.
era, early days of Flash and stuff like that. So kind of like, what was
Yeah.
your kind of vibe with this movie?
I it was one of those things where I I think that in retrospect it was a lot bigger than what we were thinking of it at the time because
Mm,
obviously this was the beginning of the end of that early MCU era. Going into Endgame, but it was also like probably, in my opinion, maybe the biggest superhero movie I had ever been preparing myself
yeah,
for. We're talking about crossovers with almost every single character in the
yeah.
MCU that were going to interact with each other. And I just remember the hype was pretty big. We were buying tickets for it. Theaters were selling out quickly. Um, just leading into it, I remember being so excited to see what they were going to do with Thanos. Like, how are they going to do Thanos in this movie? How are they going to establish him as being a threat quickly? Considering we've been watching this all sort of play out over the last decade or so. We'll talk about it in a second. The very beginning, he really does establish himself as like a threat. At the very beginning of the movie,
Yeah.
but yeah, leading into it, I really was just excited for what this film could be.
Mhm.
Um, you know, a cameo from the cat here. Sorry. Uh, what this film could be, but yeah, it was a lot. Like the anticipation for this was probably bigger than any movie up until this point for me.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I honestly don't know if there's anything Marvel could do going forward to replicate the excitement and the anticipation of these Avengers movies, both
Right.
Infinity War and Endgame. I think Doomsday is going to be big. I think it's going to make a lot of money. I think there's going to be exciting stuff in the future. But this was just such a time capsule of an event that I don't know if you can replicate with the current generation of like
Mm.
either fans or kids growing up. Like I don't know if you could do it again. Um,
I
and
don't
yeah,
think there is. I think you're right. I don't think there is
like,
a way to replicate it. It's sort of like the Arrowverse in a way. It's a once in a lifetime culmination of like a
yeah.
film franchise.
Well, yeah, like because it was really the first time anyone had done this, right?
Yes.
Now a
Yeah.
lot of people are doing it, and it's pretty common. And DC and Marvel's trying to do it again, but like at the time, there was no one that had done like 19 movies, and then they're like, "Hey, what if they're all together? Like, what if we
Mm.
just put them all together?" And I think rewatching this, like doing the rewatch for this today, I was like, I think the main criticism people have is it's sometimes a bit bloated. Sometimes there's a lot
Mm.
going on, and I think that's fair. But also, I don't know how other way you would possibly do it because like this is like four movies. This really
Yeah.
is like 4 different movies that are happening at the same time that all slowly turn into one giant third act of a film. And I think the way they pull that off, while sometimes is maybe a bit bloated at times, really works for me. And I think it ends in such a massive way. And I think what really holds it for to like to the test of time and really helps it is it doesn't end. Right?
Right.
There's not a, oh, we beat Thanos and we've saved the day. I think it really held weight for people because we had now watched, what, 18, 19 movies within this franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the only one that ends with them not winning.
Right.
And I think no one was really expecting that. No one had really had that in mind. Everyone had just been so familiar with this formula that once you break from that formula, it's so devastating to watch it happen on screen.
Mm. Yeah. No, I would say that this isn't. It isn't a traditional movie by
No.
any stretch. This movie on paper without any of the context leading into it is a mess.
Mhm.
Like it's a mess of a movie in the sense that
No.
this movie in a vacuum by itself doesn't structure itself in a way that makes any
No.
sense, really. But if you look at where we were leading up into until this movie, it does make sense in a weird way. Like it just does. And I have to say, I don't. I mean, the Russo brothers having such a little experience with these kinds of big films. I mean, not
Yeah.
only did they have little experience when they came in, with Captain America, but no one had done anything like this. So they
No.
had to not only balance out a massive ensemble cast.
Yeah.
They had to create a new type of film,
Yeah.
which, I don't even know. It's like a genre in itself, I guess. These large, like, mega movies.
Right. And, and like part of me kind of thinks maybe that's why it works. Is because they weren't trying to follow a template. They weren't like, okay, we need to do this, that leads to this, that leads to this, which is why I'm somewhat kind of afraid for Doomsday. Because to me, I get the vibe from Doomsday that they are trying to replicate the success of this movie. And I think maybe, again, I don't know, maybe it's the greatest movie Marvel's ever made. But from just everything we've heard behind the scenes of like the scripts and how it's being done is like, okay, we have to bring back Downey, we have to bring back the Russos, and we have to do this to a T. That does scare me a little bit of like, are you just trying to do this again? Like, you just trying to do this a second time? And 9 times out of 10, that doesn't work. You have to have this organic kind of method to get there. But you're right, it is very impressive how they were. And like, I think with a lesser team, this movie sucks, right? If you bring in someone that doesn't really know these characters or really doesn't care, who doesn't have a passion for these comics and these superheroes, it doesn't work.
Right.
It just simply doesn't. But they did, so I think that's why it works for this specific one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think because there's so many like starting points. Like this is such a hard movie to talk about because like I mean, I guess we can kind of just talk about the start. Like you already kind of talked about that. Like
Yeah,
how...
like Thanos establishes himself as a threat in so many ways in the first like 15 minutes of this movie. I mean, we see that the Asgardians escaping after Hela's attack are brutally destroyed by Thanos. You have arguably the strongest Avenger, Hulk, present. You got Thor, you got Loki. These are formidable characters. What I mean? These are like this team alone. Like think about this. In any other circumstance, if you said, "Hey, we have a battle going on. We're bringing in Hulk, Thor, Loki, and Heimdall, and a bunch of Asgardians," you'd be like, "Oh, we're gonna be fine. These guys are gonna be good." But no, you got the Black Order, who we had never really seen up until this point. You have Thanos. We're getting to see him like in a big way here. He's punishing Thor. Hulk tries to fight him and finds out that even when you're the Hulk and you're probably the physically strongest character that we've encountered, you've got someone that knows how to fight.
Yeah.
Like Thanos is the same size as the Hulk, but knows how to actually fight. So it's not about smashing and doing all this, that. It's like he got outmatched by Thanos before Thanos had all the stones. This establishes a major threat from the beginning. And to be honest, I mean, the movie sort of follows Thanos as a protagonist for parts of the film. obviously. We're seeing how all this came together. Um, it's a very interesting way to make a movie. I think in that way. But yeah, so we have Thanos, Josh Brolin, obviously
Incredible.
just
Yeah.
incredible in this role. The overall visual effects. I mean, we want to talk about that a little bit. Like Thanos looked incredible. It
He
still
looks
holds up.
real.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
still
looks like
holds
a
up.
real character. And I think this movie only works if you think he's real.
Yeah,
Right? I think if Thanos looked a little funny, if he didn't look too good, I think it all falls apart. Because I think this movie really leans on you like Thanos. I think that's the worst part of this entire thing
yeah,
is within everything there's a part of you that kind of agrees with Thanos. Like there is an argument to be made, is Thanos actually right? To the point where I feel
mm,
like every year there's a bit more of like an audience that's like, is he right? Is
yeah,
Thanos right? Like you have the like Hawkeye scene when like on the bathroom stall it just says like, is Thanos right? Or like,
yeah,
was he right? Like, should he have done that? Or like Thanos was right. It's like there's an argument to be made. Like I love that scene with him and Gamora, I think, where it's like, since I did what I did to your planet, like those children have never gone a day without food, and
yeah.
it shines bright on their day, and blah blah blah,
Mm.
and it's like, I kind of like like you do kind of find yourself being like, well, does he have a point? And
Yeah,
I think ultimately like it comes down to like, well, it doesn't matter if he's right or not.
yeah.
Like this is not how
There was a
he, yeah,
complexity to his plan that made it. You had to punch holes in it. You know what I mean? You had to
yeah,
figure out why it didn't work. And everyone is obviously people fighting for their survival don't care how logical the plan is because
yeah,
to them it's like you're snapping people away.
right,
So we don't care if it's gonna help people 100 years from now because what
right.
difference does that make if
We,
you're murdering people? So that's why it's like it's one of those again water cooler discussions you have about
oh,
movies.
yeah,
Actually, I mean, I believe I don't have it in front of me. I'd have to look it up, but I believe they said that this was one of the most discussed movie endings in the last decade, maybe
yeah,
more. The memes, Mr. Stark, I don't feel good, or I don't feel so good. The
yeah.
whole like the actual snap effect becoming like a popular viral thing for, you know, TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that. It's just the impact of his character and his storyline and what he does in the
Yeah.
movie is incredible. And the fact that he does face all of the Avengers at different points in the movie.
Yeah.
You know, um, he battles with all kinds of different powers to get what he wants. Like you could argue that even if you argue that he's wrong, it's hard to argue that he wasn't capable of doing what he was doing. I mean, he arguably won at the end of the movie,
He
but he
did.
came close to being an irreversible win, like something where
Yeah.
he did it and they couldn't fix the problem. They couldn't fix it and bring people back.
I think he's like the perfect combination of like he's very powerful like obviously, but he's never like too powerful that it becomes boring. Like I
Right.
like that in every fight he's in, he kind of almost loses. Like there's never a like, oh, he's easily gonna take this. Like each fight I'm like, wait, is he lose? No, no, he like I think that's the perfect combo. I feel like a lot of these Avengers movies sometimes like the villain is like so powerful and they're
Mm.
obviously winning the entire time until the end. Like I like that there's that back and forth. I love the scene what is it on no is it nowhere when they're all like taking the glove off, they almost beat him. They came very close to beating him
Yeah.
there, and obviously maybe something would have happened or whatever. But like, I like that there are those stakes there in those fight scenes. I like I like the concept that if all the Avengers were on Earth when the attack happened, they would have probably beat Thanos. Like
Mm.
they probably would have won there. But it's because of the human consequences. It's because of our strength is also their biggest weakness, which is
Mm.
free will and like their ability to like make their own choices that cause them to lose. Like I think that's fascinating to me.
I'm trying to see. There's something like Titan. I think you're talking about Titan. Is where he
Titan,
was facing.
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I was
yeah.
trying to see. Like I think in that movie he fought almost everybody at least once throughout
Hmm.
the course of that film.
Yeah,
But you're right. That battle with Doctor Strange and that group
yeah.
was the group that came the closest to defeating him outside
Hmm.
of where they were at the end of Endgame. Um, but yeah, I mean, and also just the beauty of the connections that they had leading into Infinity War, like all of the different relationships that characters had, having to tie up some of those. Obviously, Guardians of the Galaxy having such a close connection to Thanos in
Yeah.
general, and Gamora, and all of that. It's just so many things that they had to handle and juggle. And maybe I'm not remembering. Maybe if I went through and did like a deep dive nitpick or whatever, I could find things that just really bug me about it.
Hmm.
But there's just not a lot that bugs me about it. I think
No.
that they did a really good job of just balancing everything. I mean, the scene where Thor, Rocket, and Groot show up in Wakanda in that
Yeah.
battle.
It's the
By the way, the battle's crazy. You got Captain America, Bucky, Black
yeah.
Panther, Black Widow, not Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, all there and stuff fighting. And then they're getting beat down because Thanos's like minions are just running over all of this.
Yeah.
And then you get the moment where Thor shows up, and it's like I kid you not, I don't think I've ever been in a theater where the theater reacted like waiting for like something to save them. And then this happens and people were cheering for this. I had to go see it multiple times just to hear what was being said in that scene because people were cheering for it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, like scenes like that, like you think about superhero movies, very few scenes
Hmm.
resonate with you like that one. That's one of them,
Yeah. And I think it only works in this bubble because all of these things have been built up, right? I think that's what works so well about the Infinity War and the Endgame is because these massive events are built on from 10 years worth of trust, worth of a journey, worth of these like executions. Like this doesn't work unless you deeply care about Thor's journey up until this point,
Right.
which not to go back to Doomsday again, but that is one of the things I'm a little worried about is like a lot like we're going in with like Shang-Chi having one real appearance, and we're coming in with
Mhm.
Sam barely having led the Avengers. Like, really, like, he's not led the Avengers. Like,
The
this is
new
his first
Avengers have had one
outing.
movie. The new Avengers have had one movie.
Yeah, it's like these things. I think there's going to be some great. Obviously, I think it's going to be really, really fun, but I don't think there is anything in that movie that's not like nostalgic coded with like the new X like our X-Men team and stuff like that that will get you the like reaction of like Thor popping in like Wakanda, which is also again one of my favorite moments in the MCU. I think that's a brilliant moment. You're not going to have that like Captain America picking up Mjolnir for the first time. You're not
Right.
going to have that because it's not built in history as much as these previous ones were. Um but I agree. Like there's some like technical things I could be like, "Oh, it looks a little gray." But like
Well,
it's
of course,
so
the Iron Man suit with his head wobbling in
yeah,
it. So
like
there's things like that, but I mean,
it's
it doesn't
so
affect the story for me.
I don't give a
So
shit. Yeah, like it's one of those movies. I think like I don't know. I have a hard time believing if you are a fan of superheroes, you don't at least enjoy this movie on some level.
right.
Like if you say I hate Infinity War, I'm kind of assuming maybe you just don't like superheroes, which is fine. You're allowed to not like it. That's totally up to you.
There's
But
so much fan. I don't want to say fan bait in it, but there's a lot of like
yeah,
stuff for fans in this movie that were put in there specifically to get people hyped and get people excited. Doesn't take away from
yeah.
the story, but it's there for that reason.
No, 100%. Like, I think this is probably the closest you'll ever get to reading a comic book.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is the closest you're ever going to be, like, flipping the page of a comic book, and it's like, okay, Iron Man and Doctor Strange are fighting this thing, and then Spider-Man shows up, and then there's a Hulk over here,
Yeah.
and then there's that, you're never going to get that kind of thing again. I mean, you might, obviously, we got some stuff coming, obviously, but, like, I think at least at this time, like I think it was such a mind-boggling thing because we hadn't seen it before. Like we hadn't seen it on this level before, on such a big scale, in such a big way. Like I think to me, my favorite comic book media experiences will forever be this movie and Crisis on Earth X. Because I think both kind of fix the same thing in my brain of like, oh, we can do this. Like we can just have all our heroes doing this thing on this massive scale that we have never seen before. So I think that's incredible.
And not to jump too far into Doomsday because I know it's primarily we're talking about Infinity War,
Yeah.
but Doomsday could technically be a much better movie than Infinity War, but not
could.
have the emotional weight that Infinity War had.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling that's what we're going to be up against, right? We've seen that Marvel has put out really good movies. Thunderbolt's arguably one of the best movies they've had in years.
Yes, I agree.
And it still just doesn't do well because for some reason it just doesn't have that same emotional
Hmm.
FOMO that they had with like some of these other Marvel movies, right?
Yeah.
Doomsday could be up against that because I don't think the movie's going to be bad. I really don't. I don't think it's going to be a bad
Yeah.
movie. I actually think it could technically and structurally be a better movie than any of the other Avenger movies we had because
Mm,
they do have a lot of uh, flexibility on what they're capable of
right.
doing in Doomsday. But if it doesn't have the emotional connection that people had with Infinity War, which by the way, this movie, like the success of this movie just isn't on the fact that it is an incredible superhero film. I think it is the emotional connection that people had with these
Yeah.
characters. Like I will say that. Like
Yeah.
I'm not discrediting that at all. I'm not discounting that. I should say. I think there is a lot of that in there. And honestly, a lot of that is like you go into this movie and you hear the people cheering, people upset about Loki getting killed at the beginning of the
Yeah.
movie, things like that. All of these things happening only matter.
Someone was detected at your front door.
Only matter if you care about the characters. And I think going into Doomsday, we know these characters, we've loved these characters over the years, but there's been no roller coaster up to the peak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we've not been climbing there to that point. And with Infinity War, it was the perfect culmination of all of that climbing to get to that
Yep.
point. And I think that did help the movie a lot. I still think it's a good movie. A little odd all over the place,
Yeah.
obviously. My favorite of the two, as we said earlier. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that the emotional, the expectations of it
Mhm.
emotionally were what really drove people to theaters for Infinity War.
I 100% agree. Like it's that like season finale feeling of like, oh, I've been watching all season, now I get to see how it all wraps up. And like you can kind of understand why there are people that wanted to drop out after Endgame. Like you
Yeah.
build and build and build and build, and then they got that in Endgame, and now it's like, oh, all right, I'm good, guys. I'm all right.
Also,
Like,
I want to just also say, people, any character could have died in this movie. I remember when Tony Stark got stabbed on Titan, people thought Iron Man was dead. They're like, he just killed Iron Man.
yeah,
And if he would
Yeah.
have died that way, could you imagine if that would have been the end of Iron Man getting stabbed by Thanos by his own suit?
well, it's kind of built up too. Like you have everything with like Pepper being like, Tony, don't do this. We're trying to have a kid. We're trying to set a little family. I do remember going into the movie being like, I think out of the two, Iron Man might die. Like I think it could be him. And so when that moment happens, my theater, I will never forget the moment. I think that moment to me is more like memorable than like the back half of Endgame. My entire theater went
Yeah,
at
there was
the
a gasp.
same time. Like I will never forget the
Well,
like
the
investment
shot of that scene when you go back and you watched this recently, right? Didn't you watch it recently?
I
Right?
just finished
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So like when that scene, when that happens, the way the look on his face and the way they frame that shot, because he's fighting so hard, he's got him on the ropes, and then Thanos just stabs him, and it's like, oh shit, this is it. And then when Doctor Strange says, "I've looked at like how many thousands of different outcomes, we have to let him win.
We have to let
We
him
have to."
win, yeah.
And it's like, holy shit. Okay, so everything is fucked at this point. And seeing like Spider-Man get snapped away,
Yeah.
like it's just. I get emotional even thinking about it because you put yourself back in that moment of where you were, and you're like, we're going to lose a bunch of characters, and this isn't the end of the MCU. We knew that they were going to continue
Yeah.
on, but we're going to lose a bunch of characters, and we don't know who's staying gone and who's coming back. We have no idea.
Man, I really kind of wish they didn't do it with Spider-Man though, because that was the one character that kind of I think undoes that emotion a little bit. Because I'm like, oh, Spider-Man has a new movie in a couple of years, so it can't be
Yeah.
him. But everyone else, I was like, they could just be dead. Like
Right.
they could have actually did it, and then it was Spider-Man being like, oh, they're like filming his new movie as we speak.
Yeah.
But no, like that moment is such an insane experience. You don't know what's going to happen. This trope has never really been done in this way before. And just like I have this immense memory of like tiny children crying as they're leaving the theater because they just saw Spider-Man die.
Watching Black Panther, like
Yeah.
watching those characters get snapped away right after we just saw Black Panther's movie. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, because every scene they're going through as the snap happens, it takes a moment, and then you're waiting to see which
Mm-hmm.
one of these characters is going to fade away.
Yeah.
Which one?
That's
And
yeah.
it's crazy. It's such a great way of. There's no music in those scenes. Everything goes
Mm-hmm.
silent. You just hear the dust of the characters getting like snapped.
No,
It's
it's yeah. No, like
so
you're like so locked in because again, yes, I think that is the big part of it. Is like who's it going to be? Who's next? Who's going to go? And as you slowly pan around to all the characters, it's like, man, this is
I also
something.
want to give a shout out to us getting a glimpse of how powerful Wanda is because
Yes.
when they have to stop Thanos from getting the final stone,
Hmm.
she's almost single-handedly stopping him.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about Endgame, but there's also a part of that movie where it's like you get to see where Wanda was before she goes full Scarlet Witch. I fully believe, looking at where she is, by the time we get to like WandaVision and into Multiverse of Madness, if she would have had access to all of her powers, Thanos wouldn't have stood a chance against her. I
Yeah.
honestly believe that in Infinity War. So she was running on like 5% of her power, and she
Hmm.
was able to hold Thanos back a little bit. But watching her lose vision, just so many heartbreaking moments that
Yeah.
happen in that movie, especially in the third act.
There's so many of these like if things were just slightly different, it would have turned out differently.
Yeah,
Like Thor's the same way. If Thor was to 5 minutes sooner, if he had just got there before he got that last stone, he
right.
would have won. He would have been good. It's the same thing with like Star Lord. If Star Lord just didn't hit Thanos there,
Yeah,
maybe they could have got it. Like there's so many of these little tiny things that cause for so many great discussions.
but I also love the
Um,
fact that things don't go perfect because
yeah,
that's the thing. Is like
yeah,
when you're looking at these movies and everything feels so convenient, like it just all kind of falls into place.
yep,
It makes it a little bit less believable. But in this movie specifically, there's so many times, like you just mentioned, where things
yeah,
don't go the way they expect it to go, and
yeah,
they lose over and over and over again. Like throughout this movie, it's like a
yeah.
series of losses. So that's why when you get those little wins, like when Thor shows up, in Wakanda, or
Hmm.
when you see Scarlet Witch holding him back, or you see Star Lord's about to pull the glove off, like all these different
Yeah,
things that they could do. All these little wins feel like you're making so much groundwork, and then it doesn't mean anything. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like they still get beat. So
And that goes all the way back to Civil War, right? Like we can play that whole mind game. Okay, if Zemo didn't split up the Avengers, they wouldn't have had to go through all this. Like they would have had the entire team together to fight Thanos. Like they would have been good. They would have
yeah,
been all right. Like we wouldn't have had to do all of this.
instead
They
of
would have
having
all
like half the team on the run.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like we would have had the whole team together being like, "All right, what's our game plan? How do we do this?" If if Tony Strange Spider-Man went back down to Earth instead of going to uh wherever they go. I can never remember planets names. But like if they just go back to Earth there, they won. I really think if they had Thor like if they had the whole team together, Thor, Cap, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Strange, all together, they're good. They
yeah.
have beat Thanos. But I think it is like
They
that's
make so many decisions, like even getting
mhm.
on the ship in general, like just doing that seems like it might be the right decision at the time, but it ends up being one of the most detrimental
Right.
decisions.
Which makes like Endgame I think a better movie because of it. Because like you see, like, okay, this is what happens when they're split up.
Right,
Now this is their power together as they've all kind of. This is how they've won every time, and this is how they will continue to win
right.
now. Like I think that's really cool.
But they lose in it. But they lose in Infinity War. They lose it at
They
the
lose
end.
it because they weren't together. Okay, I want to speed run a couple of characters here,
Yeah,
just
go
to
for
kind
it.
of get their arcs and their story arcs. I love Tony's arc in this movie. I think it's really good. I like seeing a more like mature Tony, a Tony that
Mhm.
feels like he's fully realized he knows who he is, he knows what he has to do, but he's still a little bit of like this immature punk who's like kind of has everything in mind and like everything he's been building to since that 2012 Avengers movie has kind of fully come to fruition here.
Yeah,
I like the way that he like prepares Peter and how he handles the stuff I almost said Peggy with
Pepper.
Pepper. Thank you, Pepper. And like that argument there, I think is always so fascinating. Of just like,
Yeah,
oh, he wants this, but he knows in his deep, deep soul, he can't. fully
Right.
have it. Like he was never going to fully be there. I think it's fascinating. I'm pretty sure that we both agree on this fact. I think this is easily Thor's best outing by
Oh,
far.
yeah.
He's incredible in this. I love a Thor that has completely lost everything, but doesn't have time to process that grief because he knows what's coming.
Yeah.
So that stuff is great. I love the stuff with Rocket and Groot as well. Like that trio of characters is such a fun kind of outing. Thoughts on Bruce Banner in this movie? Because I think this is probably one of the most controversial Bruce Banner.
This is one of my least favorite storylines in the movie. I've done digging to figure out like why they made the decisions they made, because we saw in the trailers there was a version of the movie where the Hulk was present in the Battle of Wakanda. But I think they wanted to make Thor's what were you gonna say?
Or just like trick the audience as well. Just
yeah.
He's in it.
But I think the decision was made so that Thor could show up and sort of save the day, because if Hulk would have been there, what would that have looked like with him fighting alongside the heroes? I also think they wanted a path to quote unquote smart Hulk, and this was their way of doing it. I think Bruce was a little too stupid, like in the movie. You know what I mean? Like I understand that's kind of his personality to be a little silly, but I'm just like, come on. You didn't try to even figure out what was going on with you and Hulk. Like it was kind of like I'm accepting the fact that, you know, he's not happening for me. You know what I mean? And it's just you know, that kind of thing. That's one of my least favorite performances of the movie post the first like act of the film. So
I think I like it in a bubble, but I think it works better if there was a better transition into Smart Hulk.
Yeah.
Like I really, really do wish there could have been a movie that's set in between Infinity War and Endgame. And I know rights issues, we couldn't have done it, but I really, truly wish that there was a Hulk movie in between that time about his journey transitioning. Because I think it works here if you have the like satisfying moment of them reuniting and finding this. But they skip over all the interesting part of Smart Hulk and just be like, oh, it's done, we're here. It's like,
yeah, they try to fit everything Hulk has into ensemble movies because they don't have a choice.
They don't have which we're about to see again in A Brand New Day.
Yeah.
And like we're rumored to be getting Angry Hulk back, which this is the last movie we ever see of Angry Hulk up until this point as well, which is pretty crazy. It's been 8 years since we've seen him, which is kind of insane.
Actually, I think the most substantial Hulk we had outside of being in the first Avengers was in Ragnarok.
Yeah,
I think that's it. He's kind of been sort of a sidetracked character. You know, he wasn't in Civil War because of what happened at the end of Age of Ultron, and so he didn't get any sort of character development there. So yeah, we had Ragnarok was his biggest, and then we jump into this one and they sideline him pretty much after the first act. So
yeah. Steve Rogers doesn't have a lot to do here. I think it's just like his presence that's really cool. Like I think this is like Steve at his coolest. I love his entrance being like, we're not looking for forgiveness, we're just here, and if you stand in our way, we're gonna stop you. Like I think that stuff is really cool. I like that he kind of like relates the Vision in this movie of being like, well, no one can sacrifice himself. It's like, but you did, Steve. So like, what's the difference between like? I think that stuff is very interesting. Although he definitely doesn't have as much to do as like the rest of like as Tony and Strange and stuff like that. Natasha's barely in this movie. I didn't realize it until I'm looking at this cast list. I'm like, she doesn't get a lot to do. Like she's kind of just there for her presence alone. Which they make up for in Endgame. That's cool. Rhodes is in this movie. He doesn't have a lot to do either. He's just kind of there. I think this was my first big favorite appearance of Doctor Strange.
Okay.
I like his movie, but I came out of that movie being like, oh, he's great. Like, he's a great character. And I do stand by, I think Doctor Strange works better in these, like, ensemble casts. Like I think he works very well because he can bounce off of
I think he was also really good in Spider-Man No Way Home as well. So
like he's best when he can bounce off of Wanda, bounce off Tony, bounce off Peter. Like I think he works very well in that way. And I do like his movie, but I feel like he needed just something a little bit more to bounce off of. And he has a couple characters that he does that with, but Peter Parker in this movie, I like him. It might be my least favorite Peter Parker MCU appearance, though, because I do think he is kind of just there to, like, for Tony's sake. Like, I think he's there for Tony's character. And I don't know. I love that moment so much in Homecoming when he's like, I have to be the little guy. Like, I have to be that guy. And I think immediately being like, he's an Avenger now, while it makes sense, I don't know. There's something about it that has never really sat well with me. But I like it. It's fine. He's good. T'Challa also doesn't get a lot to do, but I think his presence is, I think he's the perfect amount. Like, I think he's part of that ensemble, but he's not overbearing.
I actually think that they did that because that movie leads into Infinity War, and we had a whole movie with T'Challa, and they wanted to sort of give people a chance to, take in a few more characters we hadn't seen in a while. I think, at least I believe that's probably what they were doing, because he could have been a co-lead of the movie. He's totally capable of doing it. So. He
could have, yeah. I think it works out. I think it's more so we needed Wakanda. Like, we needed a place to have this giant fight, and he kind of leads that. I think one of the funniest quotes in, like, the MCU is, like, get this ready, and get this man a shield. Like, that's one of the most iconic lines of the movie. That's great. And one of his last, like, I guess it's kind of one of his last major performances as a character, too. Because, like, he's an Endgame, but, like, barely. Like, I don't know if he has a couple lines of dialogue. You have the Guardian stuff in here. I'll try and get through these quickly. Gamora, her last movie, technically, as at least this version of that character. Are you happy with her sacrifice? Like, I know there's been some talk over the years, maybe you should or shouldn't have killed her off here.
So my issue isn't with it in this movie. I think in this movie it's fine if that's the direction they wanted to go. But the impact on that is it completely derailed whatever would have happened in the next Guardians movie, which I think is one of the things that James Gunn has talked about, how that wasn't really part of the plan originally because he wasn't going to kill characters off like that. Anyway, so they had to deal with that. But in this movie alone, I think it's totally fine if you want to do that. But the broader implications I don't think were considered when they did that, honestly.
Yeah, I'd be curious how much of that, because, like, I think James Gunn has been very coy, being like, oh, yeah, it was always part of the plan, but it kind of seemed like maybe it wasn't. Like, it seems like maybe, because, I mean, like, he talked about killing her off in 2.
Yeah.
I
actually think the truth is he probably wanted to handle it himself. He didn't want somebody else doing it, is probably what it was.
I think she would have always going to die, but yeah, probably not in that way, would be my assumption. Nebula's cool in here. She doesn't get a lot to do. She's kind of more of a plot device than anything, but I like her in here. She's kind of pushes the plot along. Officially, Loki technically dies here. At least this timeline, Loki dies here. Obviously, we get him. I remember around this time being very confused what they were doing with Loki, because we killed him off officially here, and then right before Endgame, they announced we're getting a Loki series, and I remember being like, "What are we doing?"
Yeah.
I was like, why? They were bringing him back again, but technically Loki does die here. Like, this is this Loki's final.
Yeah, the Loki that we know is gone.
Yeah.
Like, the one that we were following all the way up until this point is gone.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Wanda and Vision. I think this is probably my favorite movie of Vision's, I think. I'm trying to think back to any of the other. Like, I love him in WandaVision. I like him in... Actually, he's not really in Endgame at all, really. No, he's not actually. He's the one character who's not in it. He's good. He's good in Ultron, but I think the stuff they gave him this week in this movie was really solid. Of like, oh, I am a human. I was like, I am more human than robot. Can we just take out the robot and keep the human? I think that stuff is really good.
Yeah.
And then Wanda's kind of grief with that, I think, is good. I think it's very traumatic seeing her having to sacrifice him just for Thanos to bring him back anyway. Like, that stuff is very traumatic. You're a big Wanda fan. Like what's your thoughts on, like, I guess Wanda's journey? Because I feel like we kind of keep taking her in different places.
So some people don't like it, and I think there's a lot of valid criticisms on the way she rubber bands a little bit on certain things. Like, in terms of, like, how evil she is versus how good she is. And I'm using those terms very loosely. But, like, the fact that she she's been like that in the comics, though. That's the thing that I don't
Yeah.
think a lot of people like. I'm not saying that you have to be a comic book fan, to understand the character in that way, but as someone who did read a lot of her in the comics, she's been on good guys teams. She's been on bad guy teams. She's
Yeah.
done self-centered stuff before. She's done greater good stuff before. She
Hmm.
she makes a lot of decisions on what she thinks is the best choice. I mean, one of the most iconic things she did was get rid of all the mutants. I mean, that was one of the things. Well, not all of them, but like 90% of all mutants in the world disappeared. So she's done a lot of really, really weird things. I think at the
Yeah.
point in this and where we get to in Infinity War, um, she's still struggling with the things that she's done and like where we were with the Accords and all that. Like all of that's still part of her as a character. Um, I just like to see her kind of comfortable in her power, which is something we hadn't seen so far. She's still been kind of skittish about it. So seeing
Hmm.
her a little bit more comfortable in her power was fun. Um, I really, really liked the character, and I liked the journey that we had with her up until this point.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot happened after Infinity War that we can't take into account.
Yeah.
But when we get here, I feel very good about where she is. I
Yeah.
feel like she's had a really good storyline thus far, and I actually think a lot of the complaints about Wanda started after Infinity War, like where she went after this movie
Yeah.
versus where she was in this movie. So yeah, still very
This
happy
is
with this point.
this is probably the most like morally good she ever is. Like weirdly enough,
Yeah.
like she starts Age of Ultron as a villain. Then in Civil War, she gets sent to jail. Then after this, we have everything with WandaVision and Doctor Strange. Like this is probably her at her most like morally okay.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, I am actually a full good guy, and I'm just trying to help everybody. Um, a lot of these other characters aren't even really worth talking about. Sam, a couple speaking lines.
Yeah.
Bucky's back here, few speaking lines. Heimdall dies a goat. Okoye just there for a little bit. Shout out to a Peter Dinklage. I always forget he's in this movie.
Yeah, he helps Thor get his hammer back as an axe.
Wong is fun in here, but obviously he's kind of just in the first couple, like 30 minutes or so, and he disappears. Mantis doesn't have a lot to do here. Drax is interesting to me because I think I'm kind of mixed on Drax in this movie because
Okay.
I think this is in some ways kind of him at his worst. I think this is the Guardians 2 in this I think is when his comedy is at his worst. I talked about this with our friend Ronan, how they kind of transition that character and after that first movie, you have the whole bit where it's like, oh, I'm standing so still, you don't even know. Like that's some of the comedy that doesn't fully work here. But I mean, I think Drax should have been one of the characters that has some of the most stakes in the storyline. And there's just kind of like there's that scene where he almost attacks Thanos and he doesn't. But like, I don't know. I kind of wanted a bit more from him in this two-part movie, and I don't think they fully give it to him. They give him a little here, but like by Endgame, they completely forget about him. Like they completely forget that he killed his wife and children.
Yeah, his story. He's probably the next biggest casualty, in my opinion, to where Bruce Banner and the Hulk were in this movie. It's almost like they're juggling. They're juggling four balls, and they drop one, and they're still juggling three, and that one is just stuck where it is. And I think that's what happened with Drax. There was no development for his character; it just kind of stayed one note. So.
Yeah, I kind of wish they gave that Peter moment to Drax when like Peter's attacking Thanos and he gets like I kind of wish they gave that to Drax instead of this final moment of like you killed her. How like you killed them. How dare you? I kind of wish they gave I don't know, just to have a little bit of semblance of that arc for him, but
Yeah.
Is what it is. I think we already talked about Thanos in good detail. People hate Peter in this movie. I know there's a whole section of fandom that despises Peter in this movie.
I found so I've gone back and forth on this. I think his characterization for most of the movie is fine. I don't think there's any big standout problems in the earlier scenes where he meets up with the Earth characters and stuff like that. I think all that's fine. I think his emotional reaction with Thanos and the stakes that were there.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and even I from time to time, wonder, is that the correct way he would have reacted in that moment? Or would he have understood the stakes? Or would he have allowed himself to become so emotionally compromised that he would sacrifice everyone. I don't know. I don't find his issues the same as like say Drax and Hulk, where
Right.
those characters were just almost useless in the movie. I think that his choice could be argued, but this again, I think, is what makes the movie such a good movie. Is that
that talking point?
Yeah, you get to talk about, should this character have done that? I don't know. Is it completely out of character, or is it just out of character in that moment? Because sometimes people emotionally do things that they never do again. They do it one time in their life, and they never do it again. They act out. They do something, illogical. Maybe this was that moment for him. Maybe that's what that was.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know for
and like
sure.
this is very fresh news. It's not like he's had time to think about this.
Right.
This is like 12 seconds ago he found out that the love of his life has been murdered by her father, and like I think Quill's always been a pretty he's never really dealt with his grief in ways like he never really dealt with his mother's grief. I think he instead just kind of like overlapped it with the Guardians, and is like, okay, I'm gonna cover this grief up and not think about it. And I think once that's taken away from him, I think everything just kind of comes out in this moment. And while it does piss me off that he does that, I think from a character standpoint, it makes sense to me that in this moment he would struggle with his anger, and that would just come out in that way. Even though, yes, from a viewer's standpoint, it's like, dude, what the fuck, man? Like what are you doing? William Hurt as Ross is in this movie for a bit. Doesn't do much.
Right.
Just kind of there to stand in the way. I think Shuri's kind of interesting in this movie. I do kind of wish it definitely, you kind of said they kind of dumbed down Bruce. I do think they kind of dumbed down Bruce a little in here to make Shuri kind of smart. I kind of wish maybe they more so worked together. Right. But it is her being like, well, you're kind of stupid, man. Let me just do this. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's kind of all the major kind of big characters. There's some smaller ones, but none that I think have the, I don't know, Ned's in here for a little
not
bit.
Worth talking about, essentially.
Yeah. Stan Lee as a cameo. Yeah.
There's so many great moments in this movie, and again, like I said earlier, out of the two pairings, the two bookends here, I think Infinity War is the more entertaining movie, because Endgame is so sad because of everything that happened. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot there until you get towards the end. But I think Infinity War for me it's always going to be in my top 5 Marvel movies. I think it's going to be really hard to take it out of my top 5. So
I fully agree. I think this is my favorite live action Marvel movie. There's some arguments about some of like the animated ones, but yeah, this is personally at the top of my list, and I am so happy I got to fully break it down and talk about it. But Eric, that brings us to the end of our show today.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure as always. If people don't know you, if people don't know where to find you, first of all, what the heck are you doing? You should already be following this man. But if they don't, is there anything you want to shout out, promo, anything you want to check out?
Yeah, I mean, just definitely check out the Nerdcast on Mondays and Thursdays on both of my channels, which is Eric's Reloaded and Eric Debunks. We start late at night. We have a lot of fun. It's a late night podcast where we talk about all kinds of fun fandom culture and pop culture and things like that. Make sure you subscribe to both of my channels. One of them is more relaxed. The other one is engaging a bit more with culture. So whichever one works for you, you can find me on both places. And thanks, Darren, for having me today.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure and a half. And if you like this dynamic, I'm there most streams. Sometimes I'll miss one, but there's probably at this point like thousands of hours of us
of
over on your
content.
channel.
Like you could spend months watching us on the Nerdcast. It's just,
so much content, you all the way back until even some of the after party days. And we have a couple episodes on this channel as well. If you want to hear us talk about Aquaman 2 or the very sick episode I recorded with you back in like January where I can barely speak, there's that episode as well. And thanks everyone for watching. If you're kind of coming in here for the first time, promos or stuff for the week, obviously after the credits will be on Mondays. We have a bunch of fun shows right now. We're finishing up shows like Welcome to Derry and Pluribus. We're about to start shows like Percy Jackson and Fallout here pretty soon. So that stuff will be
Percy Jackson's right around the corner. I forgot about that.
It's like in like 3 days.
Yeah, I think
know
they're
it's
doing 2 episodes for the first week. So
Yeah, I'm very excited to check that out. And next week's pipeline will be the Christmas episode. We'll be talking about a certain iconic Christmas movie. So stay tuned for that. That will be very fun. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we will check you on the flip side. Bye bye.